Most people know LEGO Elves from the Netflix animated series, but LEGO Elves actually started as an online episode series, Webisodes. I know I first learned about LEGO Elves from the Netflix series. I didn't know there was a webisode series until starting this video. Now, creating a show for the internet isn't anything new, especially since they still do it to this day. And I've been hesitant to do any video on any topic concerning LEGO because I look at a single glance at the Ninjago fandom and I'm like, how is there that much drama? I don't understand. It could have been just I happened to jump in with bad timing, but ever since then, I'm like, I don't want to. But I did watch LEGO Elves when it first released on Netflix, and I've been wanting to jump in and do a video on it for a very long time now. And I decided that if I royally screw up in the fandom's eyes, well, it wouldn't be the first time. Let's add some context to how this whole thing started. A two-part special aired on Disney Channel called Unite the Magic, which is currently called a mini-movie on the LEGO YouTube channel, but really, this is where it all started. It all starts with this girl named Emily, whose grandma just died and gave her some pendant. Turns out it opens a magic portal, and just like what anyone would do, she jumps through to find Elvendale, and then exposition.
It's the mystery of the 5 sisters. Each one belonged to her own element, with its own magic. But the 5th sister had no magic, so she lived in a different world. The elves built 2 portals, one to enter and one to leave, which is in the castle. To protect it, they made keys, and you need all 4 sisters and their keys to use it. The 5th sister visited less and less, grew mortal and old. Without her, the 4 sisters who lived here grew apart. The keys were lost.
And then they go on an adventure to find these keys to open a portal back to the human world. You'll notice that the animation isn't like you're probably used to. The show was animated using less frames and reuses pre-made assets, like a library of head positions or arm positions so that they don't need to redraw as much. It works better for a tight budget. They make it to the portal with all the keys and they meet the portal keeper, Skyra, who says that she's not letting them through and doesn't care if the little human girl stays in Elvendale forever. So Emily has a heart-to-heart with Skyra, and turns out Emily is the granddaughter of one of the old portal guardians, and Skyra decides to not be a complete jerk. The second special was called Dragons to Save, Time to Be Brave, which the LEGO YouTube channel claims is the story part 1. I don't know why this isn't also called a mini-movie. And this is what annoys me about how companies organize their YouTube channels. They label them confusingly. We're the only way to find the real starting point if you want to watch all these episodes in chronological order is to find the wiki page. And it's not just LEGO, don't get me wrong, Monster High and Ever After High, and I think Lolly Rock now is doing the same thing, and it's just making it way more confusing, especially since those are finished and they just keep, making those weird compilation videos to try and garner more views from a fan base that's still lingering for a show that's dead, and it's just adding videos, just making it more complicated, and they put those videos in playlists, and those playlists are really just playlists in order to boost the algorithm, and it's like, oh my god, why are you doing this? And not only that, but they decided to make it more confusing with how it places on the timeline with the episodes in relation to the mini-movies. Episodes 1 through 5 takes place after the mini-movie Unite the Magic, while episodes 6 through 17 take place after the second mini-movie. And if you're consuming these as they release, there's no problem. But if you're like me, who's trying to do retrospectives on it, it's a big problem. And their playlists don't quite help all that much. Does it really matter? Can you understand what's going on out of sequence? Yes. According to LEGO and their official playlist they made, you watch the first 2 mini-movies first before watching the webisodes. Which is fine, I get it. If they decide that's the best way to consume the series, then okay. At least they put some effort into it, especially after they decided to restart the webisode numbers for the last season for no reason. I'm not joking. They went from 1 to 26, and then for season 4, they decided, nah, let's start at 1 again. Why? So I'll tell you what I did. I found the fandom wiki page, and I just went off of the list that they made. because even the official LEGO playlist does not include every episode. You need to go to the wiki to find the proper sequential order because, you know, the devil may work hard, but the LEGO fandom works harder. Anyway, moving on to the second mini-movie, Emily senses trouble in Elvendale. Turns out that there's some weird chick named Regana is harassing dragons, and by harassing dragons, I mean stealing them and their babies.
Instead of hard work and training, the elf chose to gain magical power the easy way. She drank it. The waters of Shadow Fountain have black magic. Whoever drinks them becomes powerful.
Hold on! You're telling me I could have just had a little slurp from the ominous fountain in the middle of the woods? I didn't need to make a contract with a demon? I didn't need to read all these old books written in a dead language? I could have just had the spicy Mountain Dew?
They go to dragon school to learn more, and turns out the dragon babies can't live long without their dragon mama. So they need to find a hidden market, which is apparently not as hidden as he claims it to be, and find some MacGuffins to help them figure out what to do. They find this other elf to guide them, and they get the super special book that they needed. Then she suddenly needs to dip. They manage to reach the Shadowlands, where Regana is holding the dragons, and sneak their way into her castle. You know, I mentioned in my Winx Club video that there's certain shows that manage to capture that very specific feeling of rainbows and unicorns and glitter and how you can like safely explore a magical land and you can be heroic while encountering dangers while also knowing that you're not in actually any trouble and it's all fun and it's full of hope. LEGO Elves, for me at least, does that to a T. And they also make some good jokes along the way.
You must be this tall to ride this cart. Cool.
And I think the best way I can explain how well LEGO Elves captures that fun, magical feeling is I had no idea what Regana wants with the dragons. I don't remember them explaining why she stole them. I was just kind of rolling with it. I also don't think they explained why a baby dragon will die if it stays away from its mom for too long. I also don't think they adhered to that rule in like the Netflix series, but whatever. I didn't care. I was just having a good time. That's how much fun it was for me. Wrapping it up, Ira and those other guys fly in and help rescue the dragons from the bad guy. Whoops, never mind, they get captured too. I guess I spoke too soon. But they do the combine all your magic power friendship thing and manage to defeat Regana and save the dragons, and everything is okay again. And even the human helped, so that's cool. The first mini-movie is very okay, but the second mini-movie not only manages to be more entertaining, but also manages to have better jokes, a more interesting plot, and gets self-aware at times and I wasn't expecting that from this kind of show. But now we need to know how the webisodes hold up compared to the mini-movies. They not so subtly suggested in the second movie that Ira and Farron kind of had a thing for each other, and they also do asides to the camera as if they're doing interviews in the office. Why do shows do this? I get it if it's supposed to be a joke, but there's some shows who do this and it's not even really a joke. They do it because they think this format is funny inherently. There is no punchline. You can't just slap it in and expect to get away with it. Well, then again, this show is for little kids and they probably didn't care, but still, I think it's dumb. And while I have your attention, I want to annoy you to subscribe and maybe check out my Patreon for exclusive stickers and trading cards. The first webisodes really just give insight into the characters, like how Azari doesn't live in an actual home and chooses to not have a home, free spirit and all that. And then when you hit webisode 6, they changed the style. And I can't tell if it's better or worse, but since people don't like change, I'm going to pick the safer option and say that it's bad. Also, they start doing the talking to the camera thing again, but now it's like a talking head video where they talk about themselves and make you feel like they're talking to you, so it's a little different. I prefer this kind of style instead if they really insist on this kind of setup.
Sometimes you and your BDF, best dragon friend, just need to reconnect.
I know I'm focusing on that one little thing, but it's not like they do it in every episode. Sometimes they just have a cool video where they have a mini adventure. And I think it's animated with more frames now, so that's nice.
You're brave and you're fierce, an elf who should lead. This fountain will let you rise up and succeed.
Those poor, silly elves.
Wait, are you really suggesting Regana just hung around that fountain for literal years? Maybe I don't want to drink the spicy Mountain Dew. What I realized watching the webisodes is that the kind of joke where there's that character that always rhymes everything and makes themselves sound cool and ominous, only then to immediately break the rhyme scheme and say something flat and outright, is probably one of my favorite kind of jokes.
Your power is strong, it's explosive and dark. Not everyone likes an elf with such spark. You might want to rebrand.
But then season 3 of the webisodes roll around, and if you thought the first change in the art style was jarring, oh boy, let me tell you something! They literally made them into Legos now! You can't just do this now, like really? If you wanted to do this, you should have done this at the beginning, but not 3 seasons in. Anyway, Emily's sister Sophie follows her into Elvendale, just like the beginning of the Netflix series. Wait, is that the Goblin King from the Netflix series? Yeah, surprise! The Netflix show is actually just a more detailed version of season 3 webisodes. They do have a little bit of fun with the Goblin King meeting with Regana, who, you know, isn't in the Netflix show, and I frankly prefer her over the Goblin King. They also show the Goblin King's mom and how she was a guardian who wanted to be the chosen strongest guardian to protect the portal in the human world, only to have it taken from her. Then she gets obsessed with obtaining power because she's really not cool with how the role was taken from her. Which seems like a bit of an overreaction. Then she gets slurped up into her magic pendant and her son becomes obsessed with getting his mommy back. So he becomes a bad guy. Wow. That's actually kind of heavy. I thought this was supposed to be all rainbows and gumdrops, not psychological trauma coupled with a sympathetic villain origin story. Who decided to make it serious? I'm not complaining, I'm just wondering. But then they spend several webisodes doing normal, fun vlog style stuff that does not progress the little story that they started. And I guarantee you, if I was younger watching these webisodes as they released, that would frustrate and confuse me. And since the Netflix series is just a better version of season 3 webisodes, let's just talk about the Netflix series. In 2017, 1 year after the initial episode of LEGO Elves, came the gorgeously animated Netflix series animated by Studio Mir, however you pronounce that. The same studio that animated Legend of Korra and Voltron Legendary Defender. So you already know this part. Emily goes to Elvendale and then Sophie follows her through. It's a major inconvenience.
I'm Ira, and this is Nida and Azari?
Right, how did you know?
Can you read minds? What am I thinking? That I can read minds?
And they kept the same kind of humor that's in the webisodes, already off to a great start.
How long are you staying?
We're leaving now.
Then they find this helpless man who's trapped and is definitely not Cronin the Goblin King because that'd be ridiculous.
My name's Cronin, by the way.
I'm certain him having the same name is just a coincidence. There's no way that's the Goblin. Whoops, guess he was the Goblin King. I never saw that coming. And deviating from the webisode, the Goblin minions capture Sophie when they were supposed to capture Emily because they get confused, but they're trying their hardest and deserve to be protected. I like how they added some rationale as to why Sophie got captured, because in retrospect, it doesn't make sense why Cronin just decided to kidnap Sophie in the webisode when he needs Emily's amulet. But also, can we talk about the best characters in the show? The goblins. Luckily, Farron talks to squirrels, and everyone knows squirrels see everything, so they find out Sophie is kidnapped and that Cronin is the Goblin King. You know, saying that the Netflix series is a more detailed version of season 3 doesn't really paint the whole picture. Season 3 of the webisodes wasn't really much of a story, especially since every webisode is like 5 minutes long. Really, it's more like the webisodes created the story beats that was then given to the show for Netflix to actually write a real story around it. And when they get ambushed, they get saved by a cool and mysterious elf named Rosalind. Which, you know, you see her in some of the webisodes, but I don't think they actually said who she was or why she was there. So I'm glad they bothered to add her and eventually make her an important character. She brings them to her home and they develop a rocky relationship. Rosalind is a loner and doesn't trust people easily. And because Ira is also kind of a genius when it comes to engineering, she builds a skyship. Not sure why she didn't do that earlier, so they didn't need to walk, but okay. Wait, we forgot to include the tie-in for the Lego set. We need to shove that into the story. She couldn't make the skyship earlier because she didn't have enough levitation crystals. That'll work, let's go with that.
This forest was once ruled by a queen and took away her power, making her too weak to defend this land. Then he stole her throne and proclaimed himself king.
Are you just saying this to make it seem like the Goblin King is actually a bad guy instead of just showing us that he's a bad guy? Or are you saying this because you're foreshadowing something? Sophie writes Emily a letter. I'm not sure how she plans to get it to her, but okay. But one of the goblins gets it, and he has to go find Emily, so the letter may find its way after all. How convenient. Surprise, surprise, he gets captured by the main five. Sophie steals a burger and trades it for the key to her cell and manages to break out. And she manages to befriend them because they like her pan flute. Well, also because she looks like the old queen that Rosalind mentioned, but whatever. I've always liked the idea that goblins are just too stupid for their own good. It also makes writing a story a little bit easier. Whenever you need something convenient to happen, the goblins were stupid. That's the reason. It doesn't take long before the Goblin King realizes what's going on and puts her back into her cell. And I'm starting to think they're really trying to foreshadow something here. And that goblin they grabbed, Rosalind does this thingy that releases him from the Goblin King's magic and...
Why is he kneeling to you?
Duh! Because she's his queen!
Oh, so they were foreshadowing something. And then Emily gets that letter that Sophie wrote, so now they know the Goblin King is building a big portal to somewhere.
Enough. Shadow creatures live on the life and power of others. That's why your grandmother banished them from this realm. But once I have your sister's amulet, they'll get a new home, and I'll get a new kingdom. Maybe you've heard of it. Earth.
I think I know where the portal will open up to now. They manage to find the Goblin King, and they decide to disguise themselves as goblins to give them sleep potions, and because goblins are stupid, it works. They manage to break Sophie out, but now they have a shadow creature chasing after them. But then Nida finds a picture of Rosalind and Cronin together, and now they're not sure if they can trust her. And this is where the quality of the show starts going downhill. Like, do you really think Rosalind is trying to trick you? A little bit of the drama seems like a little forced. Like, come on, is that really your logic here? And the plot feels like it's taking a turn that's still technically connected to Cronin's plot, but not really. It starts to feel like a little weird around this part. Like, yes, still same villain goal, but like we didn't know about his entire goal until like a little later on. So it's like, oh, okay, I guess I have to reframe my brain and how he's planning to do things. The one thing I really don't like about this show is that Cronin is kind of a bad villain. He just stands around bossing his goblins around to do his work for him. He doesn't actually do much the entire show. They try to make him a tragic villain with his backstory, but he really stops being interesting past the second episode. He needs to be a more active character when he just isn't.
Anyway, Rosalind and Cronin were totally a couple once upon a time, but Cronin started taking the magic crystals from the magic tree that powers the magic forest. So now the magic forest has no more magic, which is pretty crappy way to break up with your girlfriend, not gonna lie. Then they realize, oh dang, we were a jerk to Rosalind, whoops.
And then there's the whole thing where Nida really wants to believe that Cronin is actually good because she still has the hots for him, but it just ends up with her finding out, nope, he's really evil. Whoa, who would have thought? It's not super interesting and it's just kind of annoying, so I'm just gonna skip past it.
It sounds awful. But how do you know Cronin wanted to hurt the forest? Maybe he didn't realize mining the crystals would do that.
And be friends with Cronin? Oh, I'm trying. Can't picture it.
I bet she thinks she can change Cronin.
That's how you end up in toxic relationships. And then Nida comes back from Cronin's, the shadow creatures follow her, and their secret base is exposed, and Nida is a dum-dum. And the shadow creature manages to capture Emily, but not before she ditches the amulet that Cronin is after. They manage to get into Cronin's castle and confront him. The shadow creature catches them, Cronin takes the amulet, and Cronin gets to open the portal. And then this thing happens where Cronin gets to see his mother again, but his mom tells him to abandon his quest, and how she doesn't want Cronin to end up like her. She doesn't want it to consume him like it did her. And with his change of heart, he casts his mother's amulet into the portal, and the excess magic destroys it. Then the shadow creatures that he made a deal with get really pissed. But then they use that really cool magic beam to save the day against the shadow creatures, and this time everyone joins in. Cronin apologizes to Rosalind, saying that the evil magic in his mother's amulet was warping his brain, and now all the magic returns to the forest.
Listen, I'm not usually a fan of the bad guy turns good trope, especially after seeing it 1,000 times in My Little Pony. I am not super happy with the ending. It feels very much like a cop-out ending. I mean, I get it, it's a show for little kids. And I guess if you had to write an ending where they all just end up being friends, it wasn't bad, but it's still not that satisfying. Yes, I still love the show, however, I am not blind to what it lacks. And what it lacks is a good ending. And Regana. Regana is a better villain. But don't forget that there's still one more season of the Webisodes. Season 4.
The well with spicy Mountain Dew is actually a portal to the Shadow World, and the Guardian of Light created the Shadow World just so she could trap this super powerful witch, Noctura. And now we know who's been eerily rhyming into Regana's ear.
Ever since my amulet broke, I've had this urge to come up here.
Wait, did I miss something? When did her amulet break? I could have sworn I watched everything and I don't remember that. Emily gets these epic visions of Noctura returning and doing evil things. Emily goes back to Elvendale, this time without her sister.
Ow! Guys, I just burned myself!
Asari has lost her magic.
So they find Lumia, the Guardian of Light. Turns out the Elemental Guardians are being captured, which also gets rid of the magic.
Wait, is season 4 an actual story as opposed to a bunch of one-off episodes that desperately tries to mimic a vlog-style YouTube video?
So the elves need to bond with the other Guardians of Magic, and also get cool weapons along the way.
I wish I could do the things you guys do, but I can't.
Emily, you are not human. Your grandmother was one of us, remember? Some say that all humans descended from elves. Look deep within yourself. Think of everyone you ever loved.
You know, in retrospect, I guess that should have been obvious, but that never actually occurred to me. Anyway, the Guardian of Earth Magic gets kidnapped, and then so do the others. They go to the Shadowlands because, well, they don't really have much choice now. They find her tower and release the magics she's been holding on to. They do a pretty good job beating up Noctura. Then Noctura is all like, I'm so lonely, I just wanted to go home. But Emily stops her bluff.
And then Lumia does a self-sacrifice in order to take away Noctura's immortality. Now, Emily is the Guardian of Light. And if that isn't one heck of a way to wrap up a series, I don't know what is. Kind of bums me out how we didn't get another season of LEGO Elves, the Netflix series, and just have it be season 4 of the webisodes, because the season 4 of webisodes was kind of cool, and the ending was way better. That ending was satisfying. Now, the last LEGO set released in 2018, and that's really where the entire series ended. There's a few reasons why LEGO Elves was retired. The common consensus is just that the series stopped selling all that well, which is a very common answer. And that's usually the reason why most anything gets discontinued. But that's not all. Let me ask you, what is the point of LEGO making an original series? Well, as you no doubt know, LEGO got a lot of notoriety by making LEGO sets based around popular franchises by getting the license to make LEGO sets of those franchises. Batman, well, really superheroes, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Harry Potter, whatever. But with that license means LEGO needs to pay royalties to whoever they got the license from. For those who aren't aware of this, it's a simple concept. Let's imagine that the LEGO company made a LEGO Batman set. Anytime that set sells, I don't know the exact numbers, but LEGO needs to pay 10% of the profits to DC Comics. That's money that they want. They want that money, but they're legally, contractually obligated to give it to DC. So what do you do in order to not have to pay that royalty? It's easy. You make your own intellectual property. You don't need to get a license for it because you own it. Then their profits go up. That's why they started focusing on LEGO Elves and Ninjago, LEGO Friends, etc. And it's here where I feel like it really plays out. My guess is that LEGO wanted an original series for boys and girls of 2 different age groups. And I think that not only was LEGO Elves not selling as well as they needed to, but LEGO Friends was selling better than they expected. And they decided to abandon LEGO Elves to focus on LEGO Friends just because it worked better, and they knew that they could just make more money if they abandoned LEGO Elves to focus on something that was already more successful. LEGO Friends also has a Netflix series with more seasons and was selling LEGO sets before LEGO Elves and is still selling LEGO sets today. And obviously LEGO Ninjago was way more successful than any of them, but seeing as the way companies like to think about how they segregate their toys, it's boy toys and girl toys, because there is data that aligns with how you position your toys in order to make it sell better. And I'm not saying, because I know someone's going to comment this in the comments section, I'm not saying that boy toys can only be played by boys and girl toys can only be played by girls. I'm just saying that positioning wise, for how they try to appeal to people, typically boy toys for boys and girl toys for girls works really well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget I have a Patreon for monthly trading cards and stickers. Check the links in the description if you want to follow my social medias. Stay beautiful and keep playing. Also, did anyone else notice their tattoos changed sometimes? Like, I was thinking about getting Azari's tattoo, but now I don't know which one to get.